and girls, children of all ages. We are joined today by Chelsea Christer, the wonderful director of the amazing documentary Bleeding Audio, which played at Slam Dance and is currently playing a couple other festivals as well. Is that correct, Chelsea?
Yeah, we're still on our film festival journey. So hello, and thanks for having me.
It's honestly, it's my pleasure. This movie's fantastic. If people don't know about your documentary, could you give them a little bit of insight as to what it's about?
Absolutely. So Bleeding Audio, it's a music documentary. It's about a band called The Matches. And we use their journey and the highs and lows of it to dig a little deeper into how the music industry has changed for musicians and also reflect on what the current meaning of success is in today's industry and just, try and capture that magic of the community of fans.
And I do think that you do so very lovingly, and I think I mentioned this to you over over Instagram or something that I myself used to be in that scene myself. So seeing musicians that I grew up with and bands that I grew up with getting this sort of treatment at this point, the documentary treatment, it makes me feel a little older. But I really love seeing that retrospect and seeing all of that. What was it like for you to take such a journey with a band like this that maybe people aren't familiar with?
Yeah, I mean, I loved this band. They were just this kind of weird, quirky band that I feel like had so much to say. And so they just, like a lot of Matches fans, they just kind of become a part of you and your DNA. And so, I followed them for years and ultimately became friends with them. And it just, it just meant a lot to me to try and expose this band to the world because I feel like everybody, whether it's the Matches or someone else, like you have that musician, you have that artist that's just a part of your soul that you just want the whole world to know about. And I feel like while this movie, we specifically wanted it to reach a wider audience, whether you knew of the Matches, whether, you became a fan at the end or not, we wanted the film to be a really fun journey and for you to enjoy the story. But of course, I wanted to introduce the world to this band that meant so much to me and meant so much to many others, and hopefully get you to fall in love with them just like everybody else who loves them does.
I think that's a mission accomplished, honestly. I mean, like I said, I knew of the band before and I liked the band before, but I really got a different insight. And somebody else who I showed the film to, they were like, I've never heard of this band before, but now I kind of want to listen to them. So now your
Yes.
documentary was able to do exactly what you wanted it to do, which is kind of cool, right? That's exactly the goal is for
It's
you.
working. It's
Yes.
working.
Yes. You're converting us all to the Tao of the Matches, which is never a bad place to be anyway. But and I think one of the interesting thing is there's a lot of really good stories, a lot of really interesting bands in this time frame and in this scene. And one of the things I always like to know is if you had a chance to make another documentary about maybe another band, or if you had a chance to view another movie about another band, what band would you take and why?
Okay, it's a good question. The biggest joke that I feel like I've been having when people ask me, "What's your next documentary going to be?" My answer is consistently, "Yeah, my next documentary is going to be funded. Like it will be funded." So, if there's a budget, I'm happy to make another music doc. But I know, you know, Justin Pierre of Motion City Soundtrack is featured in Bleeding Audio, and he and I have become, good friends over this process. And um, he kind of approached me about a documentary, sort of, but not really. And um, and so it could be fun to do that because Motion City is, ultimately the band that introduced me to the Matches, and I love that band. I love the people in it. But really, I saw recently on Twitter that apparently there's a ton of Paramore footage that's hasn't been utilized to being a documentary, and I just, I've always been a big fan of Paramore and Hayley Williams. I think that uh, especially in the pop punk scene, which wasn't great to women and wasn't great for, people of color and didn't really have a space for a ton of diversity, especially in that era. I would love to make a documentary about Paramore and just about kind of the highs and lows that they went through. And I think too, Paramore has a similar thriving community of fans that are, I mean, that are pretty intense. And so I feel like it would be an interesting and wonderful story to tell too. So I guess if anything, I feel like a Paramore documentary would be one that I'd love to make.
I think that that's a great answer, and I love that Motion City answer too, because that's they're such an amazing band, and the stories told by those musicians, translated out into a documentary from their songs would be just unbelievably interesting to hear about. Like I said, I also really love that Paramore answer. I think that you're right about that. There was really no place in the pop punk scene back then for people of color, because I mean, most of those guys are just a bunch of white dudes complaining about their girlfriends.
Yep.
And there was really no women, outside of like Mike Herrera from MXPX, who is, he's a little brown. There wasn't a lot of bands that had that. So I think that I would love to see that. I would love to see the misogyny of that, whether it's accidental or on purpose, of that genre put on full blast.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a conversation that should be had about why pop punk was almost so uh just not inclusive, but it had fans of all types,
Mhm.
like, and so, I mean, not that that would be the central focus of a documentary about Paramore, but I think the fact that they were able to navigate those waters, and she was able to come out the other side intact for the most part and be able to create a couple of really amazing solo records. I don't know if you've listened to her solo stuff, but it's fucking really good. And
Pale,
so,
Pale
you know,
Slimer slaps. It does.
oh my God, it's so good.
It
It's one
slaps.
of those things where I was like, damn girl, like please more. Like
That is the sort
uh
of heart on the sleeve sentimentality that you can't get out of that genre, and I wish they would push more for us. I mean, they're getting it now in the modern sensibility with bands like Neck Deep and Wonder Years, but they didn't have it back then, and I wish they had.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I
So
love
so
that.
yeah, I think it's worth exploring, but I also think that, Paramore, if anything, has a very interesting story to tell too, with lots of lineup changes and
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, I would be more than happy, Haley Williams, go ahead, hit me up. Be happy to help you out.
We're gonna go ahead and tag her in that, and we'll let her know. Hey, reach out to Chelsea. She wants to do it. Make it happen. And you have the talent to pull it off. I really think
Oh
that. I really
shucks.
do. After seeing this, I really do think you have the talent to pull that off.
Oh, thank you.
Speaking of that, obviously you're a very talented filmmaker. I want to talk about inspirations. Who inspires you to be the director that you are, whether it be filmmakers or actors, etc.
Oh my gosh. There's so many incredible directors out there. And I will say that like I've always looked up to, all kinds of directors in narrative and documentary and, in all different forms of storytelling. But I'd say one of my number one heroes has always been Lynn Shelton. May she, rest in peace. We sadly lost her last year. And I always really admired Lynn because she just told these really quirky stories that were so intensely human, like the first film I saw of hers was Hump Day, which is, like an observation of like toxic masculinity and friendship. And it's funny and ridiculous, but like so intensely human and raw, and then I saw Your Sister's Sister, and I was just like blown away by this movie. It's just another one that just feels so nuanced in like the relationships that we have with our friends and our family. And she was able to like carry that into television. And I feel like, Lynn Shelton, I've always looked up to her in her career, the way that she's able to like, work as a television director and be able to take that deep, understanding of humanity and human relationships and apply it to all these, different TV shows. She's able to kind of, bring her voice to like meld into these, bigger series like Glow or Little Fires Everywhere or Master of None. And I've just always really admired that about her, that she kind of plays the TV game and, obviously loves it. And then is able to go away and like make a feature film that she loves and has written and is really passionate about. And I just think that to me is like the picture of the type of career that I would want one day. And another director too that I feel like I saw her first movie, Songs My Brothers Taught Me, at Sundance. And I just remember sitting in the theater just like silent and being like, I think I'm watching a genius work right now. And that's Chloe Zhao, who is nominated for an Oscar this year for Nomadland. But I just think Chloe Zhao is another one of those directors who, I mean, she gets really intensely human. She like casts non-actors as her talent because she's able to get people to go to that place and be themselves and be this authentic, at least character on camera, you know? And I really like her kind of observational storytelling and just how like raw and real it is, you know? So yeah, so those are a couple of my favorite directors. I just, you know, I think it's really cool. But there's so many more women getting recognized now in the industry. It's nowhere near at parity yet, but you know, I'm really, you know, feeling a little bit more hope lately anyway.
I love Lynn Shelton. I think all the best episodes of Glow are hers.
Oh, 100%.
And you can tell when she's behind the camera on those episodes. I also love Dickinson because I'm a huge Emily Dickinson guy. So I love that show that she did with Apple TV Plus. I thought it was really good.
Did she work on Dickinson?
Yeah, she did like the first 3 episodes, and then she was like a huge producer on it. It's a great show.
Oh my God, I had no idea. I'm gonna have to watch that now.
Yeah, it's a great show. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic.
Okay, cool. I will, because I love that actor. What's her name?
Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld is like
so good.
The best kept secret in Hollywood. She is one of the most talented actors, I feel like, right now.
Edge of 17.
Edge of 17 is so unreal. She's so good in that. I mean, I don't know how you find a human who is able to express all of those emotions.
Yeah. That scene with her and Woody Harrelson is just unparalleled good acting between two good actors.
Yeah,
it's just fantastic, and it's named after a Stevie Nicks song. So let's go.
100%.
Automatically on board, right? And then of course, I'm hoping that by the end of this month, we're going to be able to call her Oscar winner Chloe Zhao, because I think she's got a good chance to win Best Director for the fantastic Nomadland.
I sure hope so. You know, I mean, it's been. You know, we can count on one hand and one finger the number of women that has actually won an Oscar. So I really hope that we can, you know, count on 2 fingers.
And here's the thing. It isn't like there wasn't competition for this. There's been some amazing women, especially in the last decade, making some incredibly great films.
Agree.
And I look forward to seeing what they are able to do over the next decade of filmmaking, especially because Greta Gerwig is going to come back and make another movie probably and be just as fierce as last time. You know, unfortunately Lynn passed, and so we lost a good one there, but there's some great ones still around and still coming out and still working. You know, I look forward to Ava DuVernay does anything. I want to see that. She's incredible. Now we talked about those people who inspire you, but let's talk about since it is a music documentary, let's talk about some songs from that era that you particularly like. Maybe not Matches songs, but other songs that you were spinning around the same time.
Man, I'm trying to remember that, you know, 2005 playlist, you know.
I think you mean the playlist I'm listening to right before we got on here.
Probably. But yeah, you know, I listened to a lot of Motion City soundtrack, honestly, a lot, still do. And the Matches, of course. I did listen to Paramore, you know, all these things I've already mentioned. And to be honest, you know, it's not something that I feel like I can listen to now, but, you know, I listen to a ton of brand new, but, you know, that's complicated. And yeah, I mean, I was just kind of listening to like record labels catalogs. So like I'd listen to stuff that was on Epitaph. I'd listen to like a ton of Fueled by Ramen bands. And honestly, like if I think back to that era, like there's a lot of those bands I just, you know, don't really listen to anymore, you know. I just feel like some of the music just didn't hold up for me. And the stuff that really stuck around were the bands that like I felt had something to say that I could connect with, you know, which is why I feel like Motion City and like the Matches are bands that I still listen to today. But you know, I think too, what I've been noticing lately is I've been listening to a ton of really amazing female artists. And I feel like that was something that I definitely didn't realize as strongly that I was deprived of back then. And
Oh
so
yeah,
like currently I'm like obsessed with Phoebe Bridgers.
she's so good.
She's so good, and
She's
she's
so
just so
good.
cool.
So
Like
cool.
she's just she just doesn't give a single fuck, and I love that. And I aspire to have that same like feeling and mentality. You know
You
what
have
I
to
mean?
respect
Like
that. You have to respect a woman who does not give a goddamn fuck about anything.
I love it, and be as talented as she is, you
Yeah.
know. Like there's kind of like this mantra that I'm trying to live by, which is take what you do very seriously, you know. Take your passions and your career and what it is that you want to create very seriously, but like don't take yourself too seriously. And I feel like she embodies that so much. Like she's so funny. And I remember when she was on SNL and like smashed the shit out of that guitar, or tried to, everyone was like, "Oh, that was so ridiculous. She like was so dumb." And people like, and I was like, you guys have no idea who you're dealing with."
Bro, she's metal
Like,
as hell. What are you
dude,
talking about?
she is totally making a silly statement. And like I love that her response when people are like, "Oh, how could you do that to that guitar?" And she was like, you know, people were like, "Oh, it's a $70 guitar." And she told everybody, she's like, "Yeah, I contacted the maker ahead of time and just made sure they'd be cool with me smashing it on TV." And their response was, "Good luck. They're really hard to break." You know?
You gotta respect that, man. Like,
Yeah.
there's just something to that, and there's a lot of great female artists coming out now, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I really, like you said, I think is really interesting about what's going on now in the zeitgeist, is that now we're getting all these incredibly talented female artists. I can't remember her name. I believe it's Anna Fuyawama or something like that. I can't
Mhm.
remember her name, but she's an amazing, like, independent. It's hard to categorize her music, but she
Cool.
makes music in pretty much all of the genres. It's basically what would happen if Mitski lost her mind.
Oh, cool.
And I forget her name, but she's amazing, and I think that you and everybody else would love her. And I don't talk a lot about music on here, but you know, obviously, I love music because I used to be a musician, not a good one, but you know, it is what it is. Um, it's one of those things, you know. But I
Yeah.
think that your documentary does a great job of putting into perspective the hardships that those people have to deal with on a daily basis, especially now in 2021. There's an event that happens at the denouement of your film that I won't talk about because I don't want to ruin the film, but it shocked me a little bit. I was like, I can't believe that even happened to
Yeah.
this band. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting now, and not to like go into spoilers, but
Mhm.
you know, what happened to the matches in that big reveal happens to a lot of artists, actually, even like legacy artists. And a big part of it is just that the music industry is so convoluted. And the truth is that it's really hard to like learn this industry and be proficient and fluent in it. And that's why, you know, it's so critical, especially now in like this digital era where we have the autonomy to be able to like, you know, make and build our own careers. You know, the beauty in having that autonomy, or well, I mean, maybe the burden in having that autonomy is that you have to learn how to handle your business. You know, you have to understand how to make it, you know, how to make your art have value, you know, or how to be able to like make a living off of it. Otherwise, you're just kind of like giving your art to the world, and you know, that's fine too. But if that's your dream, if that's your career path, then like make sure to treat it like a career. You know, surround yourself with people who you trust, who know the things that you need them to know that you might not know. You know, like it's really important to make sure that your team are competent, you know, and that you can hold them accountable for that too, you know. So it's just, you know, it's definitely an interesting time, and I soapbox about this a lot, but you know, it's great that streaming is starting to trickle more royalties back to artists, but you know, it's not it's not a great revenue stream, you know. And so touring, when music started to lose its value and CDs, you know, were no longer being sold, people were just downloading music, like touring was the band-aid, right? Like that was, oh, well, artists can make money off of touring, but then, you know, people would tour so much in order to just make a living, and that's not really a great way to build a life, you know. And
Yeah.
touring's great. It's fun. Live music is amazing. But having someone be forced to be out on the road for 10 months out of the year, like that's hard work. It's physically super demanding. It can be mentally extremely exhausting. And, you know, pandemic aside, like I feel like we're, you know, on the cusp of a massive, like, you know, mental health epidemic for musicians who were forced to tour for like 15 or 20 years as relentlessly as the matches did. And I don't think that that sets them up for success when they're, you know, physically incapable of being able to keep up that pace. You know, there's a lot of life that you miss when you're on the road like that, and having to, you know, learn those skills and be able to like have a plan B. It, you know, it doesn't always work out for everyone, and it can be really hard. And you know, I just wish that as consumers, you know, we're just a little more mindful of investing in our artists. And I'm not saying it, like no one does. You know, obviously we support our artists, but I think we just need to be a little more conscious of the impact that it has when we don't like buy that vinyl record, or, you know, if we don't like buy the t-shirt at the show. Like it's all feels, you know, nominal, but it, you know, at the end of the day, it makes a huge impact. And I think another side of that too is like we need to hold streaming services accountable for paying out royalties in an equitable way, you know, because right now it's definitely not, it's definitely not a livable wage for a lot of artists, and the way that they pay it out is not equal. And so I would love for there to be more regulation there. And the hope is that the Music Modernization Act that passed in the US in 2018 will help raise those wages for artists. But, you know, all the big streaming services have already appealed that appealed that act. And so hopefully, yeah, hopefully we're able to get some change and get some people to get our artists some money so that they can, you know, survive. Because if anything, the pandemic stress tested that touring is not a reliable or sustainable form of income, and the actual music itself should be what's, you know, providing these artists, you know, their food on the table, you know, a
Yeah,
livable
I
wage,
mean,
anything.
if you make a film, you get, you know, for the most part, you make money off the film, and you keep making money off that film if you're an actor, right? Why shouldn't you, as a songwriter, as a musician, continue making money for the work that you did?
Yeah, I mean, and technically they do. It's, you know, that's definitely, if you're, you know, registered as a songwriter on, you know, a piece of music and it plays on the radio, it, you know, streams on Spotify, like you do make money off of each of those plays. But, you know, streaming on Spotify is going to get you what, a fraction of a fraction of a
Hmm.
penny, you know? And yeah, it's just I think that currently the way that the pay structure is set up is just, you know, clearly not to the benefit of the artist. But you could argue that the music industry has always been stacked against the artist. It's just that the revenue coming in is just significantly lower than what it was 20 years ago, you know?
I'd agree with you on that one. That's a very good answer to that question. Now, I'm going to ask you the hardest question of this entire interview. I hope you
Okay.
buckled your seatbelt. You only have two.
Bracing myself for it.
You only have two options to watch movies. These exact same two movies for the rest of your life.
Oh my
What
God.
two movies are you taking? And of course, why?
Oh my God. That's just, first of all, it's just not fair.
It's not. It's not a fair question,
Straight
but
up
I
not
ask
fair.
it, and everybody says that. So I mean,
And especially like as a filmmaker, like you have all these different movies that you watch for very specific and different reasons. You know, there's like the comfort movies, there's like the inspirational movies, there's like the emotional movies. Like there's just, I mean, it's just not fair. This is not a fair question.
no, it isn't.
But I will say that in terms of comfort movies, and a movie that I could watch again and again and never get tired of, is definitely Jurassic Park. That is like my sick day, wrap myself in a blanket with a cup of tea movie. And it's a movie too that I feel like if someone was just like, hey, you want to like sit and watch Jurassic Park, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds good.
We're friends
Um,
now. That's the answer.
yeah. And then like for the other movie, like I'd want something that's like inspiring to me, that is like the art movie, right? The one that like, it's just that there's so many. Um Hmm.
Hmm.
I know.
This is what I get with these answers. Is
Oh
I have
God.
no
It's just
idea.
there's so many things. There's so
Yeah.
many things. But I feel like so I'm gonna pick the movie that made me speechless. That like I feel like I watched it and it was one of those first movies where I was like, this is making me feel all the feels. And this is also like one of the most beautifully shot movies I've seen in a long time. Um, and it feels kind of random and definitely the exact opposite of Jurassic Park. But Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I feel like
So good.
fucking blew my mind when I watched it. I was just like the way the story plays out, the characters, it's one of the most beautiful movies I feel like I've seen in the last, 5 or 10 years. And it's super inspiring to me. So yeah, I guess those would be the two.
That's a great pick, and those are both great picks because I love Portrait of a Lady on Fire because it's so honest in
Yes.
whatever it's doing. It just it knows that it wants to crush every part of you, and it does so with reckless abandon. um,
Yeah.
and of course,
It also
Jurassic
is
Park.
like, yeah, but like Portrait of a Lady on Fire is like a true love story.
Hmm.
Like it's like just the purest of true love. But it's like the devastating part of it is that like when your love is not allowed or is not accepted. And
Hmm.
that's like the devastating part is like, but it's anyway, I could say there's so many things. There's so many things.
There's a lot of things to say about that film, and we uh, we had the luxury of seeing it and re-seeing it and then realizing that you should never rewatch it even though it's an incredible movie. So you are kind of a sadist, Chelsea.
Well, I feel like I would just watch it as inspiration because if I'm on a desert island and I'm only allowed to watch two movies, it's like I would watch Jurassic Park to have fun. And then I would probably watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire to be like, I need to be inspired right now, and then that would be the balance, right?
Yeah,
I imagine I'm writing.
with that answer, I'd love to know, like, in some of your downtime on this island, would you try to recreate scenes from Jurassic Park?
You know
Like,
what? It depends. How big are the lizards on this island?
right? We don't know. We don't know where this thing
I
is
don't know.
located, so we can't tell. But any sort of lizard will do, right?
Yeah, I suppose. I
With the
suppose.
right camera angle, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Now,
It's true.
now, two things I wanted to go into before I, of course, let you go with the rest of your day. By the way, her name was Rina Sawayama. That was her name.
Rina Sawayama.
Dope. You should listen to her. She's amazing. But the first thing was that I wanted to thank you for letting us talk to you today. Everybody should go ahead and see Bleeding Audio whenever it's available to the masses. Um, if people wanted to reach out to you and about your movie or about our interview or about anything, how would they go ahead and reach you on the
Yeah.
internet?
So if you wanted to follow Bleeding Audio, we are currently on our film festival journey. We have a couple actual in-person screenings happening soon, which is just so exciting. And you can go to our Twitter, which is at bleeding_audio. You can go to our Instagram, which is at bleeding audio film. You can go to our Facebook, which is, /bleeding audio film. You can also go to our website, which is www.bleeding-audio.com. And then, yeah, if you wanted to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Chelsea Christer. And then I'm on Twitter at Chelsmark. But I mean, that could change soon, but I'm like the only Chelsea Christer on the known internet so far. So,
Maybe,
I'm not,
maybe.
not, not hard to find.
Yeah. Now, in these screenings, in-person screenings, will the lovely Sean Harris, John Devoto, Matthew Quaylen, or Justin Stanstauchi be joining us for those screenings?
Unfortunately not. It will just be me for right now. But these in-person screenings, we've been selected as a part of the Julian Dubuque International Film Festival that
Ooh.
happens in Dubuque, Iowa. And I will be attending those screenings, at least two of them, on the 21st and 22nd of April. And then we have a screening in Melbourne, Australia on April 18th as part of the early preview to the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival programming, which the festival actually happens in July, but they're doing a special music doco day on the 18th. And we're like sandwiched between, I think, a Beatles doc and a Radiohead documentary. So best lineup ever. And then we have a couple other virtual festivals coming up that I'm not sure I can announce yet, but yeah, it's all, we're still rolling on festivals, and hopefully we'll be doing a distribution thing soon that's a little more widely accessible.
All right.
Keep
Well,
you
I'm
posted.
gonna keep me posted because I'd love to know this. And I saw one other documentary at South by Southwest are my two favorite documentaries I've seen this year. So, and
Aw,
they're both
thank
music
you.
docs, and the other one is directed by Edgar Wright. So you're in good company.
Oh yeah, I was making a joke about that, like that Edgar Wright made a music doc about a little known band that deserve more credit, and then I made a music doc about a little known band that deserve more credit. So we're basically peers now.
And they're both good. And that's the thing.
Ah, thank you,
Now
thank you.
the thing is, they took my pull quote. Will you? Calling you out on that. I'm just saying.
Oh, I see. I see.
You see that? You
Okay.
see that?
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good enough for Edgar Wright, is what I'm saying. No, if you had to pitch it, 30-second elevator pitch to somebody who had no idea what bleeding audio was about, how would you pitch it to them? That's the last thing I'm going to mention before I get to this outro.
Yeah. So Bleeding Audio is a super fun, quirky ride about the highs and lows of the Match's career, who are a weird art punk band that will soon be your new favorite band. And if not, you'll fall in love with the guys anyway, and the fans that have kept them alive all these years.
That's perfect. That's clear and concise. Everybody takes a moment to thank Chelsea for joining us here today. Chelsea, thank you so much.
Well,
If you
thank
need to
you.
reach her, she gave you all the information to do so. For Film Snob Reviews, this is Will, and we'll see you next time.